5 to 8, morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
So should we take a look at today's newspaper front pages? The Observer calls the Prime Minister's intentions to run for a third term delusional.
Sunday Express leads on the Attorney General's plans to crack down on militant unions ahead of the planned summer strikes.
The Sunday Telegraph reports on Boris Johnson's plan to impose steel tariffs to try and win back red wall seats ahead of this week's rather poor local election showing.
The Sunday Mirror covers Priti Patel's High Court defeat over asylum seeker relocation in military barracks.
The Express leads on the Attorney General's plans to crack down on militant unions ahead of planned summer strikes.
Oh, we just did that one. We did that one twice. It's such a good story.
Yes, sorry about that. All sorts of things happening today. It's Sunday morning. We're still waking up like you.
Yes, let's go through some of the papers then with anthropologist Marianne Hotter and political editor of UK Huffington Post, Kevin Schofield. Morning.
Good morning.
Sunday Telegraph, Kevin. Cost of living.
Yeah, well, this is actually about changes to benefits rules. I mean, you find quite often, I think, when the Conservative government's in trouble, they will reach for the benefit claimant crackdown button. And Therese Coffey, the Working Pension Secretary, has given an interview to the Sunday Telegraph, her first newspaper interview since 2019, which seems an awful long time for a cabinet minister to go speaking to a journalist. But anyway, so at the moment, if you work fewer than 9 hours, then you have to go and have an interview with a work coach to basically get more hours.
Yeah.
You're working more, so you're not claiming as much money. They want to increase that to at least 12 hours, so that you would then, so people even working a little bit longer would still have to go to these coaches. But what I thought was really interesting in this story is that the numbers of people actually claiming unemployment benefit are, despite the fact that the unemployment rate is low, the number of people on benefits is incredibly high. In Blackpool, 25.5% of people of working age are claiming out of work benefit, 1 in 4. I mean, it's incredible. Hartlepool is just over 1 in 5. So despite the fact that we've got a very low unemployment rate, it suggests that lots of people, I think, are having to take quite low-paid jobs.
Yes, a lot of people are on benefits despite having jobs.
Exactly.
Well, because the jobs aren't paying enough.
But you see, but this is a wake-up call, isn't it, for the PM and the levelling up agenda, which has got to be delivered on, because places like Blackpool are desperate for investment. Absolutely desperate.
And if levelling up, as you say, is meant to mean anything, as people understand it, the government haven't been very good at explaining what it actually means. But I think most people understand it as being, well, these left behind, a lot of them coastal towns.
Previously mining places,
exactly,
that were never given any investment after the mines closed.
Well, we don't have that heavy industry anymore, so they need more support.
We've had, 10 years of austerity, a kind of a policy of not funding those services that could potentially give people who aren't in work that help up, those young people who are coming from communities where they don't necessarily see loads of people who are getting up at 7 in the morning, getting to work, blah, 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 but also all those families and households that need support because people are working incredibly hard, but it just doesn't cover the bills. Elsewhere in the Telegraph, they've got a poll showing that some Tory voting or kind of Conservative voting voters are saying that high public spending is one of the reasons there's this cost of living crisis. And I kind of read that and just went,
high public spending?
What public spending? I mean, literally the baseline is so low now that, councils have sold off the buildings, they've sold off the art collection that they had from, I don't know, the Victorian times. The other day I got a survey through from my council saying, which of these services would you like us to cut next? Would you like to reduce? Because literally they just can't make the sums add up. And so they said, well, obviously we've only got a certain amount of money, and so what we would need to probably do is either reduce spending on older people, reduce spending on, young families and children, or reduce spending on things like your bin. I was like, well, you only empty my bin once every
Was this a sarcastic flyer, or was it serious?
No, it was serious.
Oh, good. I sort of think good. It's about time. It's about time.
Which bit is good?
No, I say good.
Stephen.
Because when times are tough, you see more and more local councils just spending money on, or let's twin with another city, which costs a fortune, or let's buy a piece of artwork, let's do an arts community project. Good, cut down on some of these ridiculous expenses.
Wait, hang on. And I don't think there are any councils buying pieces of artwork.
Yes, there are. The councils, there's stuff at the moment going on with people buying these art things.
And you and I have had conversations previously. We've got form on this about you going, the arts? No, you don't need the arts. You don't need history.
No,
what you need
and we
is
probably don't need libraries and things anymore.
Yes, that was it. Yeah,
Don't need
you talked about
libraries.
reading.
You don't need libraries.
You are absolutely off your
Why
trolley.
did you got kids?
Why did you?
Well, since I've been in a library, I will admit that. But just because I've not been in a while doesn't mean you say you have to.
Have you been to a library recently?
Not recently.
No, neither have
No, I did when I had
went to the
children. I
library.
used to go all the time.
Yes, but how long ago is that?
That's so long ago.
Times have changed.
No.
I sat in our community cafe the other day, and a lady came and sat down next to me, and we were both having a little cup of coffee on the way back from the shops, and she said, "Oh, I've just been to the library." And I said, "Oh yeah," and just got chatting with a kind of random stranger, as you do, and she said, "My phone isn't working, and I can't afford to replace it at the moment, so I went to the library to use the internet." And you get an hour a day for free, and you can read the newspapers. And I'm getting ready for.
Great, lovely. We're paying for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And she said, I've got to prepare for some job interviews. I've not been in work for a long time. She was walking with a frame. She said, I've been recovering from, I think it was an operation or what have you. So I kind of got this lovely lady's life story, and she's absolutely desperately trying to get herself sorted so that she could do well at this job interview, and she needed the library to do that.
Yeah, and that's all well and good for those people who are using it in that sense, but how much does it cost to keep a big library going? £500,000 a year?
But you need
It's
a community centre.
Just because you can afford books doesn't mean everyone
better
else
spent
can.
elsewhere.
Where would you spend it, except for allowing children to develop literary skills, allowing
that at
people to
school.
find a place that is
Older
safe,
people to learn how to use IT.
a community
There
hub.
are internet cafes and all sorts
They
of
don't
stuff.
teach you.
internet
One of
cafe,
my
that's
sons
a
volunteers
library.
every week and goes into the local library to help teach older people how to use IT.
Well, there's different ways. It's a very expensive way of doing these free
They
projects.
are an extraordinary network of value for money institutions
Are they?
that you should lay down in front
I think
of
that
the
as well.
text.
Oh, do you?
I'm not going to. You're getting a very simple
No,
argument at that end of the table. I'm not.
They'd be first up. I'm not saying we should shut down all libraries, but I'm saying if there's a shortage of money, they'd be the first things on my list.
Oh my goodness, that is so. I used to like you. That is a terrible
I
thing
would.
to say.
Get rid of them.
I'm just to see what view.
It's cheaper to buy everyone a Kindle. Who would be?
No, but that's not the
same
literacy
thing.
community.
Am I being told we only have time for one more story? In which case, we have to say Sunday Mirror and breaking news.
Yes, Mail on Sunday, page 14. So, as we all know, the cost of fuel filling up your car has gone hit the roof. It's nearly £2 a litre now for diesel, anyway. So they've done a survey in the Mail on Sunday with Aviva, the insurers, to say that, and it's quite interesting actually, increasing numbers of people are driving more slowly, braking more gently, and walking more, which is good for the environment, in order to make the fuel last longer, which I think is interesting. I mean, I'm not much of a car, I do drive, I'm not much of a car person. I don't know how much of a difference
Oh, a huge
it makes.
difference.
Well, there you are.
It
So
makes a
I think
huge.
it's
I'm driving. I'm driving more.
And don't use the air conditioning
Oh,
in
yeah.
the car if you've got air
Take
conditioning.
petrol.
Yeah.
Air conditioning eats up petrol, so don't use it even
Wind
if
the
it's hot.
windows down.
Wind the windows down, enjoy a bit of horrible fresh air.
Yeah. I mean, it cost me £150 to fill my car up now.
What do you drive?
Fix your car.
But it's not that it's a huge car. It's got a big. A lot of them. We talk about these average sized cars now. They're with very small tanks, and a lot of cars now have bigger tanks just so they last you longer. And mine's a 75 litre tank or whatever, and it
And how long did that last you then?
lasts me a week.
Right.
Can we
Wait,
go to
yeah,
work about
It's
it?
not a lot, isn't it? It's
You're
not
doing
a
lots of
lot.
commuting.
That's a lot more than it would have been.
Well, it's £600 a month it costs me to come to work, to drive to work.
That's terrible.
I know you get a free cab.
It's not free to the company.
As do every other presenter, but I drive it.
But I also drive a hybrid, so yeah, I don't have to
£600 a
fill up
month.
petrol very much.
Scandalous.
We all have to go electric anyway.
Well, I'm all for it. all for electric.
And we were talking earlier as well about it's interesting motorists are trying to cut down. They're also using their old bangers. We were talking earlier.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So the guy,
Because they can't buy a new car, but B, they're getting an old banger out of the garage and using that instead. And actually, maybe because it's very old or not been maintained properly, it tends to break down rather more. So the AA and the RAC are having a
Maybe I should get a council-provided vehicle free of charge for people who can't afford £600 to.
Yeah, that's called a bus. Stephen.
Yeah, whatever.
The council-provided vehicle is a bus
No, you
or a
have to
train.
pay for that to get on, don't you?
Yeah.
There's a very nice little
It's a good
room just
thing.
up the corridor that you can just
That's right.
put your sleeping bag in and just stay for the week.
Yeah, might have to at this rate.
Man.
There you go.
I think it'll definitely all those people trying to save a bit of money now on car maintenance. As soon as the winter hits, that first snap of cold weather when your battery doesn't start,
No.
and the roads are a bit slippy. Oh, please check your tyres.
Yeah, that's one of the worst things about old
Brakes.
cars as well, is that they have
Well, they're
old
dangerous.
batteries.
Yeah,
They have old batteries and they let you down in the
God,
morning.
batteries are a nightmare.
There's nothing worse. What are we doing next? Are we still doing this?
No, we're not.
No,
We're
we're not.
off.
No.
We're off. We're off.
Oh yes,
that was good.
we're off.
It
We're
was
moving
sort
on.
of- Yes, and exciting, wasn't it?
It was fantastic.
I like to have a bit of a rant every now and then. I don't do it very often.
No, you don't, but you do it very well when you do it.
strangely chose libraries as your subject.
It winds you up though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, look at you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, it's your turn to get in touch then. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Yeah, is Stephen right about libraries?
Clearly not.
That's
Right,
the big
probably all
question.
disagree with me, but that's fine because discussion and disagreements are all good things.
Yeah.